Perform hand hygiene before entering the patient's room. Introduce yourself and ask for your patient's full name and date of birth. If in a hospital setting, verify the accuracy of this information with the patient's ID bracelet. If in a clinic setting where no bracelet is present, make sure the information the patient gives you matches previous documentation. Explain to the patient what you will be doing. In this case, I'll explain to my patient that I'm there to take their vital signs and that they will feel some pressure on the arm as I'm doing the blood pressure. Always let your patient know that they have a right to refuse at any point and ask for their consent to continue. Make sure you have gathered all the relevant information needed before starting any assessment. All assessments must be done directly on the skin and never over clothing. I want to make sure that my patient's legs are not crossed and that feet are flat on the floor when sitting upright. I also want to make sure that my patient's arm is supported at heart level. This can be done using a table or with a pillow if the patient were lying in bed. If my patient has just arrived at the clinic or has just recently been moving around, I would want to wait 5 minutes before taking the blood pressure to ensure that they are relaxed and that the reading is accurate. First, I will take the blood pressure electronically. I will ask which arm my patient prefers and ensure that there are no contraindications. Contraindications include things like an AV fistula or a PICC line. Next, I need to make sure the cuff fits the patient. The bladder of the cuff is the section that will inflate with air. I want to make sure that the width of the bladder covers 40% of the patient's arm circumference and that the length of the bladder covers 80% of the arm circumference. This cuff fits my patient well. Then I want to find the patient's brachial artery, which is just above the antecubital fossa medial to the bicep tendon. Then I will wrap the cuff 2.5 centimeters above the brachial artery with the arrow on the cuff pointing in line with the artery. I want to make sure to wrap the cuff evenly and snugly around the patient's arm with just enough leeway that I can slip 2 fingers underneath the cuff. Next, I will turn on the electronic blood pressure machine by pressing on the left button. Then, I will press on the large middle button to inflate the cuff. Make sure your patient remains in the same position and that they are as relaxed as possible. My patient's blood pressure reading is 108/68 millimeters of mercury. The top number is the systolic blood pressure, in this case 108 millimeters of mercury, and is within normal range for an adult between 100 to 120 millimeters of mercury. However, a patient's systolic could go as low as 95 millimeters of mercury and may still be considered normal for them. That's why it is very important to know your patient's trends. The bottom number is the diastolic blood pressure, in this case 68 millimeters of mercury, and is within normal range for an adult between 60 to 80 millimeters of mercury. The machine also took the patient's pulse at the same time. In this case, you can see the patient's pulse is 84 beats per minute. We will review heart rate shortly. Once the blood pressure has been done, I can turn off the machine using the bottom left button and remove the cuff. Next, I will do a manual blood pressure. Although electronic measurements are usually more reliable and are best practice, it is still important to know how to do it manually, as you may not always have access to an electronic machine. To take a manual blood pressure, you will need a blood pressure cuff with a sphygmomanometer and your stethoscope. The earbuds to the stethoscope should be pointing inwards towards your nose when you put them on. There are 2 parts you can listen with. The diaphragm is the larger part, which is better at picking up high-pitched sounds, and the bell is the smaller part and is better at picking up low-pitched sounds. Turning the tubing will open one side and close the other. Always make sure it's open on the side you want to listen with. You can always double check that you have the proper side open by tapping on it and making sure you hear the sound with the earbuds. For blood pressure, you can use either the diaphragm or the bell. It is a personal preference, but it is suggested when you are a beginner to use the bell as it will be easier to hear the low-pitched sounds. I will be using the diaphragm as that is what I'm used to. Whenever taking more than one blood pressure reading in the same arm, make sure to wait 2 minutes in between each reading to make sure venous congestion has subsided. Just like when doing the electronic blood pressure, I need to ensure proper positioning with feet flat on the floor, arms supported, and ensure that there are no contraindications. I will measure the cuff size, making sure that the width of the bladder covers 40% of my patient's arm circumference and that the length of the bladder covers 80% of my patient's arm circumference. Then I will find the brachial artery. When locating the artery, it helps if your patient extends their arm outwards. Then I will wrap the cuff 2.5 centimeters above the brachial artery with the arrow on the cuff pointing in line with the artery. I want to make sure to wrap the cuff evenly and snugly around the patient's arm with just enough leeway that I can slip 2 fingers underneath the cuff. I will place the sphygmomanometer, which is the dial with the numbers, at eye level. The bulb is the part that you pump to inflate the bladder. When inflating the cuff, the valve needs to be turned all the way to the right. To deflate the cuff, turn the valve to the left. Before listening for the blood pressure, I need to palpate to find the estimated systolic blood pressure. This will ensure that my actual blood pressure reading is more accurate and that I do not encounter what is called the auscultatory gap. To do so, I will place my fingers on either the brachial or radial artery and inflate the cuff until I can no longer feel a pulse. Take note of this value and then deflate the cuff quickly. In this case, I stopped feeling the pulse once I pumped up to 110 millimeters of mercury, which represents the estimated systolic blood pressure. Next, I will take my estimated systolic blood pressure and add 20 to 30 millimeters of mercury to it. So 110 plus about 20 to 30 brings us to 130 to 140 millimeters of mercury. Now that I'm ready to listen, I will pump up to between 130 to 140 millimeters of mercury before slowly starting to deflate. I will deflate at about 2 millimeters of mercury per second. I'm listening for the Korsakoff sounds. The first sound that I hear is the systolic blood pressure, and the last sound that I hear before the silence is the diastolic blood pressure. Once I know that I've heard the last sound, I can deflate the cuff quickly and remove it from my patient's arm. In this case, the first sound I heard, which is the systolic, was 108 millimeters of mercury, which is within normal range for an adult between 100 to 120 millimeters of mercury. The last sound I heard, which is the diastolic, was 62 millimeters of mercury, which is within normal range for an adult between 60 to 80 millimeters of mercury. Therefore, my patient's blood pressure reading is 108 over 62 millimeters of mercury. Once I'm done, I can deflate the cuff quickly and remove it from my patient's arm. I'm going to tell my patient that I will be taking their pulse for a full minute. I'm going to place my first 2 or 3 fingers at the radial pulse. I can feel that the pulse is regular in rhythm and has a force of +2, which is normal. A force of +2 means that I can feel the pulse well, and even if I apply a slight bit of pressure, I can still feel it. After 30 seconds of counting the pulse, I'm now going to start counting my patient's respirations, even though the patient still thinks I'm counting the pulse. The reason for this is because oftentimes if someone knows you are watching their breathing, they will alter it, which will cause a false result. The rise and fall of the chest is equal to 1 respiration. I can see that my patient's breathing pattern is of regular rhythm, the breathing is automatic in nature and not forced, it is silent and not labored, and there are no use of accessory muscles. In total, I counted the pulse for 30 seconds and the respirations for 30 seconds because both rhythms were regular. If the pulse or the respirations had an irregular rhythm, then I would have had to count each for a full minute. For the pulse, I counted 40 beats in 30 seconds, so 40 times 2 is 80. Therefore, my patient's resting heart rate is 80 beats per minute, which is within normal range for an adult between 60 to 100 beats per minute. Note that for athletes, it is possible that the resting heart rate is in the 50s. For the respirations, I counted 8 breaths in 30 seconds. So 8 times 2 is 16. Therefore, my patient's respiratory rate is 16 breaths per minute, which is within the normal range for an adult between 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Note that your Jarvis textbook mentions 10 breaths per minute instead of 12, but 12 is the more widely accepted lower value of what is considered normal. Now I will take the patient's temperature through the oral route. Due to COVID, I had to stay away from my real patient's facial area, so meet my new temporary patient. A temperature can be taken through many different routes, such as axillary, rectal, oral, or tympanic. Before doing the oral temperature, I want to ask my patient if they have had any hot or cold liquids, smoked, or chewed gum, as this can cause false results. If they have had anything hot or cold to drink, I want to wait 20 to 30 minutes before taking the temperature. If they have smoked, I will wait 5 minutes. If they have chewed gum, I will wait 2 minutes. Simply pull out the probe to turn the thermometer on. Make sure to put a new probe covering on before taking the temperature. On the left side of the thermometer, you will see a button that says C and F. This is to change between Celsius and Fahrenheit. On the right side, there is a small picture of a person. Pressing this will change the root setting. On this thermometer, there is adult axillary, pediatric axillary, and oral. I will press until I see oral. Now that my thermometer is set on oral and Celsius, I will ask my patient to open their mouth and place it under either of their posterior sublingual pockets. I will ask my patient to keep their lips closed until the thermometer beeps. If the mouth is open, it will alter the true reading. Make sure to discard the probe cover in the garbage, then put the probe back into the thermometer. My patient's temperature reading is 37 degrees Celsius, which is in normal range for an adult between 35.8 and 37.3 degrees Celsius. Remember to always state your units when recording readings. In this case, the unit is Celsius. Make sure to thank your patient and ask them if they have any questions. Ensure they are comfortable and have the call bell in place if in a hospital setting. Make sure to wash your hands after having been in contact with your patient and their environment.